We're here today to discuss the action of the State Board of Education on the removal of the process standards in the math TEKS. I applaud that you are willing to take action. While this is a good step, it is not enough. As I have said before, and as Dr. Milgram confirmed, the process and methodology that are embedded within the content standards must also be removed. If you do not remove them, then the assessment does not change. The specific methods that are still called out in the TEKS and are still eligible for assessment. I don't want to hear about how much it'll cost the state to change the assessment or to change the TEKS or to change the curriculum. What it will cost to not change the TEKS far outweighs any monetary cost. We are talking about the futures of an entire generation of Texas children. You have heard people say that children must struggle to learn. So the children struggle and struggle and struggle and are continually frustrated. If you have a strong foundation and understand addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, and all the math functions that require those skills, then you can apply math to any situation. You don't need a process standard to tell you how to do that. If you have a strong foundation, you can build anything that you wish to do upon that foundation. But if you have no foundation, only gaps in 7 different ways to multiply that you really don't understand, then you have nothing. I've been coming to you for 2.5 years. I have no expectation that my efforts here are going to help my children. Like Dr. Milgram, I am here for the math because that is what will help every child. If no one stands up for the math, then every child from this point forward is affected. They need math in order to become mathematicians, engineers, architects, accountants, teachers, professors, and parents. They need to be able to do math. I don't have to tell you how to balance a checkbook. I just need to know how to balance my checkbook. What we do for the TEKS today is not enough. We must do more. We must give our students good, strong TEKS that build a solid foundation. If that means a rewrite, then so be it. As I have said before, the standards are your responsibility, State Board of Education. I have brought you proof that the standards are a problem. You've heard from the Assessment Division that changing the TEKS changes the assessment. Students have been negatively affected by the current TEKS for 3 years. What statute says the TEKS cannot be rewritten? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ellis.
Randy, thank you for coming today. I very much appreciate your work and respect all the work you've done for this. I have an open mind to this. I want you to understand that. We've had hours of discussion, pros and cons of process standards. We've been down that road before. But what I'm looking for needs is an explanation of the benefit of what the proposal is on the table today, which is removing the process standards out of the knowledge and skills statements. But I'm not convinced yet that what the proposed revisions will do will at best do what's intended and maybe at worst do what's unintended. Because there's, we've heard it, I've got lots of emails that the State Board of Education is going to, considering taking the process standards out of the TEKS. And as you know, that's not what's being proposed here. It's this very small change. So the question I asked Chris Remy, I want to ask the same thing because I really do respect your opinion. But and you've already answered one of the questions, which was, will the proposed changes have anything to do with assessment? You said no. So the second question there is, will the proposed changes have anything to do with instruction in the classroom? And then my second question to you is, as you just said, that this is not enough, what is being proposed here today. So that leaves a streamline or a full revision. And obviously that's not going to happen today. In our first reading, we're not ready for that. So what is where would you propose that we go from here if what we're doing proposed today is not enough?
Well, I think a good first step is removing those process standards because I think it does create a lot of confusion at the teacher level. If you take that out and you, like Dr. Milgram said, put them a place where you can ignore them because they really have no significance. They really don't. If you put them at the bottom or if you leave them at the top where they are now, that's fine, but you clear up the content portion by striking out the need for the use of those process standards. So that's a good first step. But where I saw the biggest impact on the assessment, and also because of if it's tested, if it's on the STAR, it's in the curriculum, it's going to be taught, are those places where you call up for multiple representations. And I think Dr. Gray was actually mentioning this particular 3rd grade standard, 3.4K, where it says represent multiplication facts by using a variety of approaches, repeated addition, equal size groups, arrays, area models, equal jumps on a number line, and skip counting. All those things that are called out can show up on the assessment. And this is where you end up with, 7 different ways to do something that it's completely wasting the time. If you can show, that's to me where we really need to focus and get rid of that kind of wording.
But you would agree that the revisions today will not change 3.4K?
They will not. They will not. That's why I say it's not enough. It's a good first step because it does unclutter. It clears up the content portion, gets rid of that clutter. So it is a good thing to do, to get rid of them.
Okay.
But it's not enough.
Mr. Mercer?
Thank you, Randy, and I forgot to ask Dr. Hines earlier too, but if I remember right, you're an engineer, she's a medical doctor.
Yes.
And Chris is a MBA, I think, is that?
Yes.
So you're pretty much the normal parents we have here in Texas.
Yeah, here's my last calculation I did for my company. It's 19 pages to get to one answer at the back.
And the process?
There's no process standards on any of this.
You're, and I didn't ask Dr. I apologize, but your children, before now they always hated mathematics, is that a true?
No, my children love mathematics. In fact, well, I've got one daughter who's in 8th grade. She's taking geometry this year. Well, I should say she's taking STAR Prep, half geometry, half STAR Prep. Because unfortunately she has to take the 8th grade STAR. Well, if I don't opt her out of it. But she's doing real well in math. I tried to push her ahead of where the TEKS were so messed up. So she took Algebra 1 last year, she's taking geometry this year. And those courses are not as affected by, and I mentioned that last time, they're not as affected by all these process standards and the wording of the TEKS. My younger daughter was in 5th grade when all this hit, and she did not escape unscathed, as some people here claim. She will not do well in math. She's been permanently damaged.
Because of what's happening.
Yep.
Let me ask you, because I'm at the mind now where I realized early on that this is not going to fix everything, but at least is it at least a step in the right direction?
It is. It is.
At least is at least a message that we're trying to do something. I cannot sit here and do nothing after listening to 2.5 years of testimony of parents who are, again, not the average moms and dads. If you're struggling, engineers, doctors, and MBAs. So I guess my question is, would you feel that it's at least could be, it's not going to solve the problem, yes or no? It will not solve the problem.
It's not going to solve the problem,
But
but
at
it
least a
steps in the
message
right
or a step
direction.
in the right direction. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Perez Diaz? Oh, are you done? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Beltran?
Thank you for being here, and I appreciate your concern. And my heart goes out to your daughter and your family. I was curious. You made a statement about how the process skills don't have as much of an impact in the higher grades. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Well, by that time the kids are doing arithmetic,
Go ahead and put that mic on. There.
Oh, okay. So, for instance, in geometry, they do the calculations. There's not a whole lot of, you got to represent it 5 different ways. There's just not the ability to do that when you get to that upper level math, which is why it shouldn't be stressed in the lower grades. And I'm fine using models to teach a concept, but we're having kids draw pictorial models up into the 8th grade. That's totally unnecessary. I sent y'all an email last night that has a 100-page PowerPoint, and it has a lot more examples and a lot more information about what we see in the math. So I hope y'all get a chance to look at that.
Just make sure we do question.
Randy, first of all, thank you. When you bring up your daughter, I'm crying too, okay? So I hear you and I feel it. So, but Dr. Milgram came and talked to us last time. Tell me a little bit more about your perception of Dr. Milgram.
Oh, I think he's an excellent mathematician. And you talk about someone who knows what's important in mathematics to apply it to real situations, engineers. That's the big difference, and you'll hear these people talk about these other professors. I think Jerry LaMoran from TASM mentioned Dr. Bowler. Well, she's an education professor. She's not a mathematician. So there is a clear distinction between those who actually know how to use math to build things and create things versus those who know how to teach. The differences couldn't be more vast. So I have the utmost respect for Dr. Milgram. Yeah, we should be listening to what he recommends.
Ms. Perez Diaz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Houchins, for being here, and I too appreciate your passion, and my heart goes out for your daughter. And I understand, the reference to past testifiers and appreciate their expertise. But when we're talking about education, it's important for an individual who's working directly with students to understand pedagogy as well as understanding the math. And I think that that's something that we can't lose sight of because we have students in our classrooms who need to learn. And I appreciate the testimony that comes before us over the last two and a half years. But I have to tell you, from my district, the average parents that Mr. Mercer keeps referencing are the majority of the parents in this state. I'm included in that, and I appreciate, as I've heard from across parents in my district, appreciate the challenge that these standards are offering our students in math because it's preparing them. And I think that one of the things that we need to be really careful about is, even though as adults who have not been in the education system for many, many years, we've been out of school for a long time, we may not understand what this looks like because we haven't been exposed to these things. But our students are learning these things. They have that exposure in the classroom, and so they're being challenged. And we can't be afraid of modern ways of approaching education because so many of our students, and we hear this all the time, but our educators have to prepare our students for careers that don't even exist yet. Yeah, so I guess it's not a question. I had to make that point.
Well, I'd like to respond to that because you talk about pedagogy. That's great. Let's talk about that. I keep hearing that there's evidence that this stuff works, but there isn't. The evidence, Dr. Bowler's research. Read the PowerPoint I sent you last night. There isn't evidence that this type of teaching is effective. It's just not out there. If it's out there, someone please send me a link. Let me review it. We've looked and looked for it. It's not there. And the kids that are being taught this way now are going to be 2 years behind when they exit high school. All right, thank you.